Would you say that the snow goose conservation season is it failed in what it was hoping to do? Because I mean, the numbers are just they're not changing.
It certainly hasn't reduced the population like they had hoped. Now, there's been some studies, and again, I've stopped following the literature as closely and not involved in the management decisions. But there have been some data in the last 5 years that they have changed the survival rate to some extent, but it certainly hasn't been enough to actually drive the population back down. So failed might be a strong word.
I'll give you that.
But I wouldn't say that it has been as successful as we hoped in reducing the size of the population. And certainly the conservation seasons have attracted a lot of attention by hunters, and they're a challenging bird. I don't need to say that to you guys. You guys deal with it on a daily basis, but they getting smarter and smarter every year. And on the years that you don't have any young, seeing all those white birds must be difficult to get them down in gun range.
I admit, failed it was the wrong term. I should have said not had the desired or hoped for effect.
But back to that. I made a comment a couple times. Andy kind of grilled me on this, but I think they ought to just go to the damn tundra and just wipe out a million snow geese if that's what they need to fix. Just go up there, take ARs, whatever it's going to take, and
I think that would give hunters a terrible.
I'm not talking about hunters doing it. I'm talking about the federal government doing it, because if you're wanting to control something, that's what we need to do.
Well,
I think that's harsh,
Jeff. I mean, that was certainly some of the early discussions, but. The federal government isn't going to do that because it's Canada.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
Yeah. And the Canadian government was not wild about that idea. They have, and I don't know how far they've gone with this, but they have been working with some of the native communities to do some harvesting up there and to try to increase the harvest on the breeding grounds. I think we were all hopeful that the conservation seasons would help control and be more effective in controlling the populations than they have been. But I think a mass culling or killing, whatever you want to call it, either on the wintering grounds or on the breeding grounds, may be effective. But boy, it's going to be a public relations nightmare. Can you imagine going to one of your locations and saying, "See all these geese here? We're going to kill them all tomorrow."
The snow goose is a beautiful bird. Like, it's white. I think it would be, like you said, a public relations nightmare if PETA got a hold of that and just these beautiful white majestic birds are all just
So are we trying to fix the population, or are we trying to make some people happy? See, that's what's the problem with our country. One of them is we can't stomach the things that have to happen sometimes to fix things. That's why we have war problems that we didn't have back from World War II on, because we ended shit. If we've got a problem and the snow goose population is so big and detrimental to other species also, then we need to fix it. And if it means going out and killing 1 million snow geese somehow, no matter how you do it, to fix it, that's what we need to do. But we're worried about the social media. We're worried about the people, oh my gosh, they're killing these poor white majestic birds. Well, those white poor majestic birds are wiping out themselves and all the other species because they're taking over the tundra. Isn't that the problem? Is that their breeding grounds are getting so big they're taking it away from everything else?
Well, that was the concern was initially that they would damage the tundra, and I think there has been some evidence that it has. I think some of those concerns might have been not realized, and birds have spread out, and some of the habitat has been able to recover. Some of it is in bad shape, but I mean, as a matter of public policy, there's been ongoing discussions. There still continue to be ongoing discussions between the Canadian government, the U.S. government, frankly, all the states and flyways and hunters groups and non-hunter groups and everything else. So it is it's a complex issue, Jeff. And I know it would be nice to be able to sit there and say this is the way it's going to be and this is what we're going to do, but it does. A lot of people have their voices and have to be heard. One of the things I did in when I was the migratory bird chief is I ended up having the discussion with Russia about snow geese. Russia and Japan. We have treaties with Russia and Japan, and we have seasons. We have Russian snow geese that winter in the Pacific flyway, and they were concerned that some of the conservation seasons and other things that were going on in North America were going to affect birds that were coming back to nest in Russia. And what Russia was doing at the time, it was trying to increase their snow goose population. They had been way reduced, and they actually stopped migrating to Japan. And so, they were trying to build the population up on Wrangel Island so it would start of migrating to Japan and also providing some opportunity in Russia. And so, there's always balances out there. We have treaties, they're treaty partners. We have to sit there and listen to them and have a discussion with them about the proper management. And at some point in time, we collect enough data that we can sit there and alleviate their concerns that we're having a negative impact on birds up there.
That's fascinating. That I've never thought about that. Like if we've got a treaty with this other country, like it's not just what's affected here in our country, but these other interests are involved in setting their limits and their dates and things like that. I've never in my life thought about that.
Well, having participated in those conversations with Mexico about goose management or even brant management on the Pacific coast with Mexico. So, those migratory birds for some reason don't pay attention to the international boundaries, and we have to deal with our international partners too. Because certainly, if they were doing things there that we didn't like, we would be talking to them also.
So, what happened in Japan? When was their heyday of snow geese, and what led to them not migrating? Was it Russia, or were they coming more into the United States?
As I remember the conversation, what happened is, for a variety of reasons, they went through a crash. The Russian breeding population went through a crash, and they were eliminated from nesting on the mainland, and they were only nesting on this one big island called Wrangel Island. And when that happened, that wiped out the most of the migration that went to Japan.
Wrangel Island.
Would you say, Jeff?
Looking it up, it's a big old island. Does that have open water around, or is that all froze up?
Most of the time, it's frozen up, but in the past 10 years or so, it's had more open water during the winter. During the summer, and they've actually had some cruise ships to go up there, and it's been interesting to see how things have changed up there. But I've got a friend who has worked up there, and they've even documented polar bears going through the snow goose colony up there eating snow goose eggs.
So what did we have to do in this situation? Did we have to look at the snow goose population that might be coming from Russia, or how do you ease Russia's concerns with our conservation season?
We've been doing banding of Russian birds, and on Wrangel Island, and they fly down either to British Columbia and Washington or to California, and you again start looking at what the harvest rate is on those birds, what proportion of those banded birds actually get shot, and where they get shot, and have that discussion with Russia, and it can show that harvest isn't overwhelming those species. That and their breeding population counts on Wrangel Island have continued to go up.